All right, everyone. My name is Szasz. I'm the president and CEO of Verde Capital Management, and today we're going to be doing a fireside chat on an introduction, I guess, to our new Verde Capital Management tax management services. So today I'm going to be introducing Michelle Kopp. Michelle is our financial coach. Some of you may have already met her through some financial coaching that she may have done with you. But Michelle's also a licensed and trained CPA, and she's going to be helping some of our clients with tax preparation services this year. So this presentation is really designed to highlight some of those services that we're offering, talk a little bit about how we're going to be doing this differently than our competitors and other tax preparers in the market, and then we'll kind of come together at the end and discuss why we started this. So what was the purpose for doing this, and why did we feel like it's an area of the market that we wanted to be involved in? So Michelle, go ahead and get us started and let us know what this service is all about.
Okay, great. Yep, so we're going to talk today. Let me get my cursor here. Here you go. So we're going to talk exactly about what this new service entails, and I assure you it's way more than just tax prep. We're also going to talk about how to get started and then what the process will look like, and then we'll finish up with sharing who we're looking to serve. So I'll go ahead and start with an overview of what tax preparation looks like here at Verde. So on the most basic level, obviously, we are going to be offering tax prep for federal, state, and local taxes for individuals. As this is our first year, we're going to hold off on preparing business taxes this year, but we do hope to expand our services next year. And so moving a step further, we are, as we prepare your tax return, we're also going to be looking for, tax planning opportunities where we can help you identify ways, if possible, to minimize your taxes, maximize your deductions. And maybe with, prior preparers that you've worked with, it was strictly tax prep and nothing more. But that's not how we do things here at Verde. So we're going to work as a team to, with myself as a preparer, as well as your service advisor, provide tax planning insight and advice so you can know that you're getting the best quality advice related to your taxes. Another great benefit of working with Verde is that we already have a lot of your information as your financial advisor. So we know what we're looking for. We know we have one source of truth for your financial information. We know where you're banking, your investments, and we know what to look for to actually prepare your taxes. So Carl will speak to a little bit more about this in detail on how that will benefit you as the client, but knowing that there's a team of people that know you and have your information, we can provide you a lot of assurance that we aren't missing anything related to tax prep or tax planning. And then finally, we are looking to bring back a relational experience to the tax prep process. Our clients might be coming from, a very transactional experience where they feel like they were kind of being shuffled around and there was really no way to ask questions or really talk to anyone. So we're hoping to change that experience as we bring back the tax prep meeting. So once your return is mostly prepared, we'll meet together, myself, you, and your service advisor, and we'll talk through, again, your return, what it looks like this year, talk through any questions you might have, and then talk about any changes that we might be making for next year as we prepare for tax planning for next year. So our goal really at Verde is to be a place where all of your financial needs are met under one roof, really becoming that complete solution for your finances, and we hope we can exceed your expectations this year with offering tax prep. So I'll explain a little bit more about how to get started. So here's what the process will look like if you choose to have your taxes done with us. First, all we need to quote you for a fee to prepare your taxes is we just need your prior tax return. So send that over to your service advisor and we can get you that quote. Once you agree to that, we'll send you an engagement letter along with our tax organizer, which is just a place for us to get specific tax questions answered and for a place for you to upload or import your tax documents. And so once all that information is uploaded, I'll go ahead, do the prep work, and then prepare your return as much as I can. Once I'm finished with it, I will reach out to you and we'll schedule your tax prep meeting. So this will be the place where, again, you can ask questions. We'll go over exactly what's on your return, and then we'll talk about next year. After that meeting, I'll finish up the return. Maybe there's some slight changes that we need to make, or maybe we're waiting on one more document. And once I finalize it, I'll send you over the final DocuSign to e-file. And then I'll e-file your return, send you a Loom video kind of talking about any changes, or really just going over super high level your return, and then you're done. So that's the painless process that we have implemented here. So with that, Carl, if you want to talk to those we're looking to serve this year.
Thank you, Michelle. So what we're trying to do, because this is the first year that we're doing taxes, is we really are looking for kind of a market that isn't quite at the low end of where, we're going to do this dirt cheap for people that are maybe doing it themselves, or at the high end where you need very sophisticated tax planning services because you own a business or multiple businesses or properties. We're kind of looking to target that middle ground. So if you are completely comfortable doing your own taxes, if you are doing them through tax prep software like TurboTax or another competitor to them, we think, and you feel very comfortable, you're doing a good job, that's going to be the lowest cost solution. We're probably not going to compete in that market, and we encourage you to continue to do that yourself. Okay. On the other hand, like I said, if you own a business, if you have rental properties, if you're self-employed, we're not quite ready to move into that area yet, largely because we think that market is pretty well served. There's lots of good CPAs out there. We're not going to be able to compete with all of them. And to be quite honest, we have 770 clients at Verde. We have capacity to do 100 tax returns this year, so it's not going to be realistic for us to be able to do the tax returns for everyone. However, there is a wide group of people, the vast majority of our clients, that are somewhere in between there, right? They're not quite at the level where they want to do the taxes themselves, perhaps because of some of the sophistication around the investments that we have, and investments can be intimidating. There's dividends, there's interest payments. We also invest in asset classes that are kind of outside the norm, like cryptocurrency for a lot of you, for example, and that can make things a little bit more complicated. So having someone to be able to do the tax return for you is going to be really beneficial. Now, one competitive advantage we have over pretty much every other person that you would go to is we know a lot about you. So what Michelle said is absolutely true. We have your Verde client portal where if you maintain that and we keep it up to date, we know where you do your banking, we know whether you have a mortgage or not, we know your income, right, and where you work. We know if you're getting a bonus or not. We know all of your investment accounts, whether they're with us or whether you self-manage them yourself. So this allows us to know what questions to ask. And this is probably one of the main reasons why we decided to get into this, was because a lot of times when we find errors or there's problems on the tax return, it's not really that the person didn't know what to do. It's lack of coordination, right? They're probably very, very busy and they're kind of shuffling people in and out, hey, drop off all of your stuff, get it to me, and then something's missing. Either a form is missing, or it was lost, or the person didn't see it, or maybe there was a corrected one that came out later that they weren't aware of, so they thought they had what they needed. But again, the custodians will frequently do this, where they'll send out something in February and you kind of jump the gun to try to do your taxes early. And then we find that in March, there's a new form that comes out that has some corrected piece of information on it. All of these things can lead to a situation where what the IRS is getting and what you put on your tax return are two different things. And that's typically the way that audits come about, right? And so we're trying to do a better job in terms of making sure that we're going to be really accurate, really thoughtful. We think we can do that because we already have access to all these documents for you already. And we know if there's new updated documents that come out. So in that way, we're going to be able to automatically give those things to Michelle. And then again, we want to add some white glove service to this by making sure that we bring back kind of that tax prep meeting that's been so long forgotten, where you actually sit down with your tax preparer. One thing I do like about some of the software solutions like TurboTax is that you can put in TurboTax, hey, what if I did this? And it'll tell you, oh, your tax return, you owe more or less, right? imagine if you can do that, but instead of knowing what to ask TurboTax, what if you could have a human being right across the table from you that you could just talk to and say, hey, if I'm really trying to lower my tax burden in this year, what are some things that I can do to lower it? Well, let's see. Have you fully funded a 401k plan? Are you eligible for an HSA? Should we put money into a traditional IRA? You're going to have your service advisor right there alongside Michelle to really look at options and kind of problem solve, and Michelle running things in real time to be able to see how is this going to affect your taxes. If we find out that there's something that can be done, then we'll do that right there and possibly impact the taxes that you're paying in that year. If it can't be done until the next year, then essentially we've educated you as to something that you could be doing better in the future to make sure that in the future your taxes are better. We're also finding that price is becoming a prohibitive factor for a lot of our clients. The CPA profession is in very much decline at this point. We're seeing that there's fewer and fewer accountants graduating from the schools, and I think the average age tenure of a CPA now is well above 60-something years old. And so we know that as CPAs are becoming fewer and fewer, the really good ones are moving up market. And what up market looks like is they all want to do tax returns for those business owners where they can charge $5,000 to $10,000 a return. And again, while that's great for them and they want to do that because that makes them the most money, most of our clients are not in that category where they need to pay $5,000 to $10,000 for a tax return. So when you're going to one of those CPAs that's charging $5,000 to $10,000, they'll kind of look at you and be like, well, this person's tax return is very simple. I could probably do it in a couple of hours, but they're not going to charge you $100, $200, $300. They're going to charge you $700, $800, $900. And so, in many cases now when we're talking to our clients and we're asking, hey, what does tax prep look like for you? What they're telling us is that it's cost prohibitive. They kind of feel shuffled in and out very quick, like drop off your stuff, don't bother me, don't ask any questions, I'll do your taxes and I never want to see you again kind of thought. And that it's prone to errors because people are trying to do, a year's worth of work in 3 months. So again, what we're trying to do here is really improve that process. We only have very limited capacity right now. Again, we're targeting 100 tax returns. We still have capacity at this point. So if this is something that you're still looking for, we'd love to help. And again, we're trying to bear with us because this is our first year, but we want to create that seamless and streamlined approach and see if we can make it not just cheaper, but better.
Yeah. And Carl, I know we talked about some particular examples where you've seen the benefit of maybe having tax prep in-house where somebody's return, there was something missed, and it totally would have been found out if the financial advisor and tax preparer were working together. Do you want to share that story?
Yes, absolutely. So many of our clients, when they work with us, there's things that happen right around the time of retirement that most people aren't necessarily aware of. One thing affects another thing. So you might think that this is a tax issue, but it's actually an insurance issue, or this is something that my financial advisor looks at, but it's really your tax preparer that would file the form for it. And there was one particular case where I was thinking about a client that came in, and she was pretty angry at me and said, "Hey, you made my Medicare premiums go up." And I was like, I don't control your Medicare premiums. She says, no, you made my Medicare premiums go up. And what she was referring to was a situation where if you have a substantial amount of income in a given year, your Medicare premiums might change, right? Because your Medicare premiums in retirement are based off of your income. So let's say, for example, it's 2021 and we have a really good market, and I'm going through your portfolio and selling some things and, causes your income to go up temporarily for a year. You might go from paying, $85 a month for Medicare to paying $175 a month. Now, that's not something you can necessarily help. If you made more money, Medicare does adjust based off of income, and that is a legitimate thing that happens. But what most people don't know is that in that next year, so again, 2021, we made a lot of money, realized some gains. 2022, if you were a client in Verde, nobody made money in 2022. That was a big drop year, right? So in 2022, when we lost money, that Medicare premium should have gone down, right? And it normally would have, except the form that was needed to be filed in order for that to happen wasn't done. And that's not the responsibility of the financial advisor, that's the responsibility of the tax preparer in that case, right? But the tax preparers rarely look at this, right? Because they're not insurance agents. They don't know how much you're paying for Medicare. So they're almost like thinking, well, the insurance agent should do that, or somebody else is doing that. But it's really a tax form that's filed with the Medicare and Social Security Administration, essentially, that tells them, hey, remember my taxes, my income was really, really high last year in 2021, but in 2022, it's dropped back to normal. Please, reduce my premium to $80 a month. Now, normally Medicare eventually catches up, but they have a 2-year look back. So they're not going to look just at 2022 income. They're going to look at 2021 income. And it's on you, the client, to know that you should dispute this if you've had a significant drop in income. We see this often happening right around the time that people retire. We see it happening between years where we have large capital gains and then go into capital losses, or maybe more modest capital gains. This is not a problem that any one person can solve. Even if I knew that the problem existed, if I'm not doing your taxes, I can't force you or force your tax preparer to do the form. Your tax preparer typically isn't going to be looking into things to this level of detail unless you have somebody that's really understands not just insurance, but investments and taxes, right? And most of the time, the insurance agents are kind of MIA. They sell the insurance policies. They help you get that Medigap or Medicare Advantage plan, but they're not sitting there really talking to you on an annual basis to help you with determining whether you should be disputing your Medicare premiums. So this is just one kind of problem that's really difficult to solve, but it's a coordination problem if you think about it. It's lack of coordination between the insurance person, the financial advisor, and the tax preparer. What we're hoping is that by bringing all of this in-house under one roof, that we can be that coordination, and that situations like my client was dealing with, which we were able to solve for her, don't happen again, because there's no reason to overpay for government benefits that you'd be entitled to at a lower price, right? And that's just one example of many that I can give you that we've found over the years that have ultimately led us to the decision that this is a business that we want to be in and that we should be in. We also are finding that, if we're working on these things, we can save people in many cases thousands of dollars, right? Which then makes it to where it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It allows us to realize more benefits from that than any of these services on their own. So the coordination benefits are really where we think we can help. So with that, Michelle, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we finish up? This fireside chat is really short. Again, it's an introduction to our tax preparation services. So we have a little bit of time for questions if anybody has any questions. But this video is being recorded, and it will be emailed out to all of our clients in the next couple of days, and also posted to our YouTube channel as well as our blog on our website. So thank you again for choosing us, for trusting us with your financial needs. Our goal is always to make everything here better over time, and we hope that this is just another nice value-added service that we can put in front of you that hopefully will make your life just a little bit better, a little bit easier. If you are interested, again, in getting a quote from us on tax preparation services, please reach out to either Michelle or your service advisor. And Michelle's information is going to be on the slide here in just a second so that you can email her directly and just say, hey, I'm interested in this. If you send us a copy of last year's tax return, that's all Michelle really needs in order to be able to give you a quote. She'll turn that around fairly quickly, and we are going to be taking clients all the way up until April 15th. Is that right, Michelle?
Yeah. So we're looking, if you come in around April, I mean, even now we're in the midst of busy season. We'll most likely extend your return. If we get it done before April, great. Anybody that comes in April will for sure be extending. But again, it's just the payment deadline that's April. We have a October 15th filing deadline that will for sure be way before that. But we'll take people up until until we can extend your return in April. So feel free to reach out if you don't have a tax preparer already.
And Michelle, just one last question on the price point so that people can kind of understand what is this going to cost them if, can you give us some insight into what's the range of fees that you've been able to kind of quote people and what would determine whether they're at the lower or the upper end of that range?
Yeah. So our very minimum is $300, and then I've quoted up until $600. So it's based on, I'm not doing an hourly rate or anything. It's just based on the number of forms that we have to do and the level of detail that's required or time that it would take to complete those forms. So if you have a W-2, very basic information, maybe a couple 1099s, INTs, that would be the $300 range. If you are having capital gains and 1099Bs and maybe are itemizing, it might fall into the $400, $450 range. And if there's anything extra on top of that, again, we're not doing rental properties or business tax returns, but we are doing a few smaller Schedule Cs. We can handle those, and that kind of falls in that mid-range. But then any extra, like additional forms, I've only quoted a couple. A lot of people really fall into that $400, $450 range, and I know with their experience with their prior tax preparers, they're paying $700, $800 for a very simple return, just because of what Carl said about, CPAs moving up in market and wanting to price that way, and kind of having the people that can't really afford that or don't want to be paying that for a simple return kind of falling by the wayside. And those are the people that right away they hear the quote and they're like, yep, absolutely. That's kind of the basic mid-range that I've seen majority of the quotes come in, and people are extremely happy with that price, with what goes into preparing the return as well. So that's kind of what the mid-range is, and most likely where a lot of people will fall into.
Okay, sounds great. Mm-hmm. So we're going to leave this up for just another second here if you want to jot down any of the information. Again, Michelle is on our social media platforms as well. You might check her out on YouTube. She sends out also a monthly newsletter through our blog that you can sign up for. But feel free to email her or call her at the numbers there. And happy tax season, you guys. We'll see you soon.